Welcome to Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. This podcast was created for the boomer woman leaving corporate, and now you're looking to reinvent yourself, become an author, an entrepreneur, a podcaster. Well, each episode will leave you with clarity. You will come away with the yes, I can and yes, I will reinvent myself mindset. So come on, let's do this. I'm your host, Margot Levette. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back. A brand new episode, Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. Today, I am so thrilled. Well, you know, I'm always thrilled, but extra thrilled today because I have with me an author, a podcaster, the founder of the world's best. Well, let me back up. He is the founder of the Masters of Business Network and Mastermind. It's dedicated to the mastery of entrepreneurship and business. And let me tell you, it is the world's #1 training network and mastermind platform for Black entrepreneurs and business owners. So we have to have strong leadership when we become entrepreneurs, when we say that we're going to start our business, be it digital or be it brick and mortar. And let me tell you, Brother Bedford is the man. So welcome, Brother Bedford. I'm so glad to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much, Margot. It's me. I'm honored to be with you. I'm honored to share the space and the airways with you. I've been watching. Obviously, we've worked together, but just to continuously watch your growth and your development and the things that you're doing and the impact that you're having. Again, this was destined to happen, and I'm just honored to be here, and hopefully we can add some value to those who are going to tune in to hear what we have to say.
Oh, yes, yes. And for those of you that don't know, Brother Bedford is the only reason why you are listening to Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. This man built the show when I was shaking straight out of corporate, straight off the game shows, shaking in my boots and wondered who's going to want to listen to what I have to say. So, oh my God. So Mr. Benny Randall, who is the head of Verkay and Bashani Radio, calls you the Black folks whisperer. And let me tell you, you have a way of connecting with the globe, with everyone, because business is business. But the way you present it for us as Black people to do business is the way we can connect and relate. So the first question that I have for you is, when we look at corporate America in 2020, what is your take on it as far as us in America and Black people in particular?
Sure. Well, thank you. That's a great question. And thank you for the question, Margot. The McKinsey Report that was just released recently said that over the next 5 to 10 years, 4.5 to 5 million Black jobs will be lost due to automation and AI, which is artificial intelligence. That's something that's going to happen regardless. But now we're also hemorrhaging millions of jobs even before this report came out. And not to mention the millions of brothers and sisters who are underemployed, right? Some have gone to school, spent tremendous amount of money to get a degree in one particular field, and they did not enter into that field after graduation. And then they find themselves working in industries or in jobs that are beneath their intellect and their education. And so literally we have tens of millions of Black people who are either unemployed or underemployed. And the trend, George Fraser, who's my mentor, and I'm sure the audience is very well aware of him. If not, you should be aware of George Fraser. But he always quotes the statistics of the income and wealth gaps between white and Black, and how if nothing changes, the current trends that we're on, not only will the unemployment be glaring, but just the wealth that we have, family wealth, in the next 20 to 25 years. And most times their numbers are off. But they say within the next 20 to 25 years, if nothing changes, Black families will have a household net wealth of 0. So this is something that is of paramount importance for us to understand, because what happens is we see a few of us doing well, and then that gives us the belief that the masses of us as Black people are doing well. And nothing could be further from the truth. There's only one LeBron James, right? But there are close to 50 million Black people. Another statistics, and I'm giving you these statistics before I go directly into to the answer, is that out of the 7 billion people on the planet, there are only 13 Black billionaires. I want you to think about that. 7 billion people, 13 Black billionaires. 800 or so billionaires in the United States, only 5 Black billionaires. And when we're talking about billionaires, when we get there, not one of these billionaires in America have a value or a wealth of over $5 billion, right? So even when we're just getting into that 1%, we're still on that very just crossing the goal line. We're giving an example. We're not to date this interview, this conversation. You have a Mike Bloomberg worth 60 billion, right? So I just want to give you something, give the audience something to look at, where Jay-Z, where we applaud, yes, he's a billionaire, $1 billion, compared to a Michael Bloomberg, who's one of many, who has $60 billion. And so even when we crack those lines, cross those lines of income and wealth, there are very few of us. So I say all that to say, back to that McKinsey report, it's dire for us. I went to the store just the other day. Again, we have to pay attention. All of us can walk into a Kroger, a Walmart, or anything, and you'll see that slowly but surely all of the cashiers are diminishing, and you have to go into the automated. That's AI, that's automation to check out. Now, for us, it seems convenient, but those are jobs that's being lost, and they want to increase that, not only in the Walmarts, the Targets, but the Krogers, the Whole Foods, wherever you go, you'll see that there are machines taking the place of what would be considered lower tier jobs, right? So now when that is replaced, the jobs that are becoming available for Black people are even beneath that. So even when we say that there are going to be jobs that are created, they still will not be able to meet the requirements for us to have a living wage. And this is why you see the trend for a lot of us beginning to work 2 and 3 and 4 jobs, or have a job or 2 and still have 2 to 3 different hustles. So that picture, if you really understand it, is bleak for us. And so what we have to do, and I saw my brother John Hope Bryant, I've seen a few other Black leaders or political figures talking about the necessity to go back and get retrained and educated to kind of fit into this new economy. And I have a different take on that, because even as we begin to retrain and go back to school to try to get jobs, and we don't even know what those jobs are. If the robots are replacing these jobs, what jobs are you going back to school to learn, right? And so you have people who are going back to school accumulating debt to get into what's called an ever-evolving economy and ever-changing. So what has been happening is that the jobs and the training that we've been getting, by the time we get the certificate or the degree and we're in debt, that job is no longer necessary because the machine or automation has taken over. So to answer your question bluntly, we're in a time right now where we have to get the type of knowledge and information and guidance and tutelage and mentorship that will not teach us to go and look for a job, but to teach us how to create a job. So that's my position as we move into this era where jobs are going to start hemorrhaging, and really at a fast rate. It comes when we least expect it. As the economy begins to go through ups and downs, the domino effect is going to be very hard on us. And so I learned a while ago that in America, that there's going to be a time, and we're entering into that time, where white America can't even afford to hire enough of its own people, let alone provide jobs for us. So we have to learn to create jobs. And then if God blesses us, then we'll be able to help to create jobs and partnerships. I really hope we start using different language. We got to get out of the language of job and get into entrepreneurship and ownership and partnerships and strategic alliances, because that's how we begin to build our own economy. So we need to begin to think about creating jobs, taking our knowledge, our experience, our expertise, our passion, even our hobbies, and create a job around that. We can do it. We have the capabilities to do it, but there needs to be a mind shift to help us to get into that. And it won't be easy, but it's something that we have to do.
Wow. I hope everybody's taking notes, because this is information that it's not maybe it will happen. It is happening right now. Absolutely. As we speak. So we jump in a car, we get up at 5 or 6, and out here in Southern California, we're on that dreaded 405 at 4 or 5 in the morning, going downtown, whatever, to a job that is not even going to exist much longer.
Absolutely.
That's dire information.
Yeah, and if it does exist, you still have to just be, it's a real world. You're at greater risk that job could be replaced by technology, right? And so if that job is replaced by technology, even if you love your job, and so I'm telling, even if a person loves their job that they've elected to pursue their career, I'm not telling you just to quit your job. Even my brother, Dr. Randall Pinkett, in his book, Black Faces in White Places, I believe it's chapter 9, if I'm not mistaken, he teaches in there about becoming entrepreneurs. So even if you work within a company structure, a corporate company, you have to begin to think like an entrepreneur so that you can begin to create value, so that now you have this value that cannot just be easily diminished or easily replaced. So let me put it to you this way. In the sports world, they call it where you have players who built up their resume and their cachet to where they become free agents. Yes. And then as you're a free agent, then anybody can bid on you. And now you're able to dictate the income or the revenue that comes to you based upon the value that you bring to the team. Yes. So even if you have a job that you love, that you're passionate about, you still have to begin to think entrepreneurial, because the company and the corporate structure is changing such that even though you may have a job, relying on them to take care of you long term, the days of working 40 years and having a safe, secure pension and healthcare, those days are long gone. And so even if you love your job, you still have to think of ways to make yourself valuable so that you'll be able to take care of yourself in the latter years. I don't really believe in retirement. I think that's a language that is really kind of made us lazy. We work 40 years to retire. We should find something that we love and just do it to the grave. Yeah. If you want to travel the world, just do it to the grave. Everything that God creates works until the end. It doesn't think about retire. You never hear a lion talking about, I'm getting ready to retire, right? You never hear, any creature in the world talking about, I'm getting ready to retire. They do what they do. They live their gifts, their talents, their skills until God says it's time to come on home. And so I think that's, again, these are mental shifts that we have to begin to make, because if you're relying on a company that is not loyal to you, your brother got to speak straight words. They're not loyal to you. If they can replace you tomorrow, they will. If they can find someone that can work cheaper than you, they will. And so you just have to be on the offensive, think more in terms of competition. I'm sure we'll touch on that a little bit later. I think that's one of our challenges, that we're not thinking competitive enough, because I don't think we'll ever be able to close these gaps in the traditional sense. When we want to close the income and wealth gaps, it's not going to be because all of a sudden corporate America or white people all of a sudden became benevolent, and now they're going to sacrifice their income so that you can catch up. No, we have to think about how are we going to begin to compete? How are we going to be in charge of the automation and the artificial intelligence that competes with others in the marketplace?
I hope everyone heard that. You can still love your job, but be competitive and make yourself a beacon of value where right there in that workplace.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. Well, it makes it difficult to fire you. They have to know that if I fire this man or this woman, I'm not going to be able to easily replace them. right? They have to know that. And you have to think that way. You have to make yourself irreplaceable. You have to make yourself indispensable. And I think we've settled too much on just being able to get by and be accepted and want to be included and all of those types of things, that we forget that we are the children of great scientists and mathematicians and builders and architects, that this wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for us. And so we have to get back to that mindset and that spirit, so that when we do encounter these oppositions or people coming against us, we don't shrink. We don't crawl into a corner because of fear and anxiety and feeling that we're not worthy of being on the same playing field. I pray that I'm in the same position or in a better position now, to where I don't shrink when I get into the room with people of other races and colors. I've always said that I want, my objective is to be able to walk into a room of white men in suits and me in my suit, and you say, you know what, I like that brother better than I like the other fellas. And so I've always thought about being a competitor and just being on the top of our game, not going there saying, do I belong? And I think that's just a spirit that has to just seep down through all of us into our children, that we belong and we should compete and we should be ready to take charge of our rightful place.
That's one heck of a mind shift, because that runs so deep. And I think that when we think that we've mastered it, and we walk into the room, and we always talk about we're building, finding our seat at the table.
Yeah.
Do we really, really work on that inside, so that we know I belong here? And you know what? If you don't look out, as I'm here at your table, I'm also building my own.
There it is. That's right.
What we have to do.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
I am just wondering also about this thing of women becoming entrepreneurs. We are jumping, Black women, in record numbers. And what's your take on that? What couple things should we really, really keep in mind when we say, I'm going to become an entrepreneur, I'm all in? I hear what Brother Bedford's saying about building this, we're bridging the gap in this huge gap between white folks and us, the 1% and us, and what's going on, AI, all of this is swirling around us.
Right.
If we are going to fully commit ourselves to be entrepreneurs, women of business, what 2 or 3 things should we have in mind from the very beginning? I heard you say be competitive. We always have to be competitive. What other things, what other tips can you give women who they're throwing their hat in the ring and they're all in?
Yes. Well, first I want to say that, it's needed. It's warranted. The reason that we suffer so much as a country, really the world suffers, but if just us speaking about this small place of America and us and the work that we're doing in America, this country suffers for its mistreatment of women in general, but in particular, Black women have been at the bottom and have not been able to be at the table to express the ideas, the concepts, the genius that comes from the feminine dynamic that we don't hear and see. And that's why you see the world in such turmoil, is that it's white male dominated. And so even the ideas, and so even when we're talking about business, that's why I'm always, it may seem contrary, but I'm coming at a perspective that is contrary to white male view. So even we view business through his lens, and we have to stop that. We have to strip that. So when Black women are rising and beginning to build businesses and taking their genius, their talents, their ideas into the marketplace, it is a fantastic thing. And we have to begin to work harder to support that. I'm speaking of the brothers. Yes, we have our own challenges, but we have to begin to support Black women in entrepreneurship and business. Now, the challenge that I see happening, though, and this is one of the reasons you mentioned the Masters of Business. One of the things that struck me one day, because Masters of Business has been on my mind for almost 10 years, and I never could find the right way to pull the trigger, because that is truly a labor of love. And so it wasn't something where I'm thinking, how can I make some money or what's the big angle? I have no angle. So someone asked me the other day, so what are you trying to accomplish with this? I say, it is what it is. I'm trying to help Black people become masters of entrepreneurship and business. I want to help my brothers and sisters learn the internal things and the external things to help them to be entrepreneurs and business owners and create wealth and leave intergenerational wealth. And so they couldn't see that because there's always an angle. Again, looking at it from the view of white males, right? So, and there is no agenda. But one of the things that compelled me recently to go ahead and pull the trigger on that, I was reading an article about Black women, and this was in Detroit. A lot of Black women in Detroit, out of necessity, again, getting laid off and all of these things, and saying, you know what, and us being not what we are supposed to be. I'm speaking of Black men, and so we're coming up short, and now we're leaving our women to have to do a lot of the heavy lifting, right? To be financially secure, take care of the children, take care of the household, right? So I saw women going into business, but one of the things that troubled me was that they're going into tremendous debt to start the businesses, right? They're going back to school, getting that loan, and then coming out thinking that they have to build a business that requires $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 startup capital. And so they're going into debt that way. And so I'm watching sisters under a tremendous amount of debt trying to build a business. And so I would say the first tip that I would give is that you don't have to build a business like Amazon. I think that is one of the most troubling pieces of advice that I see happening on the internet, is that everyone wants to be the next Jeff Bezos. So they want to be Bill Gates because the term millionaire, even I backed off of using the term millionaire, Black millionaires, even though that's my reality of interviewing Black millionaires, learning from them, networking with them. That is my reality. But what has happened is that that's become a catchphrase for so many people. And so you have everybody wanting to become a millionaire. And so we're looking at these big businesses, these huge operations, and we're missing all of the joy and freedom and independence that could happen by building a nice, fundamentally sound business off of our natural talent, skills, and gifts. And so I see not just sisters, brothers as well, but in particular, sisters going into industries where they're having to fight very hard to build these huge businesses and go into debt, when my advice is that go internal. What is your strength, your gift, your God-given talent that you have, and build a business around that. And I tell people, what's wrong with building a business that generates you $100,000 a year if it gives you time, freedom, gives you flexibility? You don't have to worry about a million employees. You don't have to worry about office politics and all of that. What's wrong with that type of business? Instead, we'd rather build $1 million business, have all of these things existing, all of the different expenses, high overhead that comes with that. And then our take home pay is only still $20,000, $30,000. That's why I tell you, you can go back and get a job if that is your ideal. But if you create a job yourself, you can create the income to generate $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. And some people may say, well, that's not a lot of money. It is if you don't have all of the other factors in place. As you alluded to, if you don't have to get up and get into the traffic jam for 2 hours.
Yeah.
If you can commute from your kitchen to your bedroom, to your kitchen, or to your home office, and you can only work 4 hours a day and you can still make $30,000 a year.
Yeah.
You're doing much better. And that helps you to position yourself, again, now to do joint ventures and partnerships to make more money. The key is, if you can build a solid business that generates $50,000, $100,000 a year, all it takes is small tweaks to scale to $1 million. But what happens is we're chasing this $1 million dream, this $10 million dream. And mind you, a lot of those companies are in trouble. These companies aren't even profitable. Their structure has allowed Uber, these are the companies just popping into the top of my head. Uber has never been profitable. Twitter has never been profitable. And so the way that the system is set up is that they've developed a template that makes people want to pour money into it in the way that the stock market is structured. And so they have these huge IPOs. And so you have all of this money sloshing around to support and build a company. But Uber just laid off. I think I just saw the report just yesterday. They laying off people actually out there in LA because these are not profitable enterprises. And so I'm warning brothers and sisters, do not get into these business models that look good. They're shiny objects. And then you find yourself either having to have a tremendous, if you need $1 million to start your business, you're in the wrong business. There's something wrong with your business model. If you can't sell one product without you having to take on $10, $15, $20,000 worth of debt, something is wrong with your product. Something is wrong with your messaging. And so the first tip is for the sisters to not feel that they need to go in a tremendous amount of debt to begin to build their enterprise. Again, begin to study and find out what you want to do. I think that is so critical. I used to have mixed feelings about that, about your passion, because, you know, someone can be passionate about sitting in a hammock and drinking fruit drinks, and nobody gonna pay you for that. So you can't just do that. But you have to find out what is your gift and your talent and your strength that you can build income around without going into debt. And then as you grow, you find ways to leverage debt and things like that to grow your business instead of you being suffocated by a tremendous amount of debt, college debt, all of those different types of things. So that would be the first thing, is to make sure that whatever business model that you're going into, really analyze, do you have to go into debt? The second would be in line with what we just said, is to definitely discover your passions, your strengths, and your gifts. And I don't care if you say that someone else is already doing it. That's my point. Even if there's a marketplace where there's somebody even doing what it is that you want to do, there's a group of people that will gravitate to you. That's the beauty of finding your voice, building your infrastructure. You don't need a gazillion people. You don't need to be like these large companies like a McDonald's that needs to serve a gazillion people in order to make profit. If you had 1,000 people that know, love, trust you, and you're able to service them over the lifetime of a relationship with them, 1,000 people paying you $1,000 over a lifetime relationship with you, that's $1 million. Again, it's simple math, and that will be the third tip. Do the numbers. Really look at what we're talking about now, analyze the numbers, and kind of figure out what it would take for you to be self-sufficient, to take care of yourself, take care of your family. And then you'll find the numbers are not what you think they are. If you really did the numbers, you say, you know, if I just got 100 people to pay me $500, that's $50,000. Right? I'm fine, right? So those are the types of numbers. We have to do that type of investigation with the products and services that we want to do. That'll help us to carve out the markets that we want to serve. And then we'll find that business gets easier instead of it becoming harder because we're trying to duplicate what we see on TV. And really, no business, the smaller businesses, especially in startup phases, have no business doing any of the marketing, the branding, all the things that you see on television. Those are mature businesses with millions of dollars of investment capital supporting them. You have no business trying to duplicate that. And really, that's what puts us out of business too fast.
What I hear you say is that we definitely need to make sure that we have a mentor, a strategist, because this mind shift that has to take place, it's not going to come from us because you don't, as they say, you don't know what you don't know.
Absolutely.
You obviously are you read, you study, you pay attention to what's going on. And the Masters of Business Network and Mastermind is a labor of love.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the time, and I respect your time greatly. Will you take us? Well, I'm so glad. Will you take us into the network and the mastermind? Because this is where I want to lead people. My thought on all of this is that if you're going to do this, you can't be too cheap to invest in yourself. Going long-term, and as you always say, we're building organically. You need somebody to show you the way, to help you, because it's so easy to run back to the way that's always been comfortable, and that's the corporate way, and that's not going to work for us. We want to advertise the corporate way. We want to approach people the corporate way, and that is not our way. So will you take us into the Masters of Business Network and Mastermind? How does that work? And most of the time, I don't like for people to come onto the show and just sell, but I want you to tell people what this is all about, because
Cool.
I am yet to find something that's dynamic and meaty, and the price point is, oh my God, you're crazy if you don't jump in. That's all
Right.
I'm going to say about the Mastermind.
Yeah, no, well, you've touched on everything. And so first, let me go back to the coaching dynamic. Yes, you want to begin to find, if not coach or mentor, you need to find somebody that's doing what it is that you want to do. You need to begin to surround yourself. One of my other mentors, Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, best-selling author of many books, but the seminal work, or the work that he took over and co-authored with the Napoleon Hill. Most people don't know that Napoleon Hill, prior to his death, was working on a version of Think and Grow Rich for Black people. So even that alone is a lesson that even white people see that there's a different conditioning that has happened to Black people that requires a different type of teaching. There was already Think and Grow Rich, but even Napoleon Hill saw that just that teaching alone was not sufficient for Black people, because Black people have experienced something that no other people in the annals of human history have suffered. And so we need a unique and a different type of teaching to bring us up out of that. Now, I argue that all we need to do is go back further to the beginning. I tell everyone, if you ever just study the movie Roots, you'll see the naming process, that after a child, and this is just in Africa period, where that after the child is born, and to go through the naming process, every father said before any other distractions or anything got in the way, they took them out and then they held them up to the sky and said, behold, the only thing greater than yourself, right? So at the very beginning, we're taught that we are connected to the universe, and there's nothing greater, that if we just tapped into that, we can begin to build the life that we want. That's entrepreneurship. That's all entrepreneurship means. Of course, entrepreneur is a French word that was just introduced in the early 1900s, late 1800s, due to this industrialized society. And so that's why we have to get past that. Everyone is born an entrepreneur. The only thing that is greater than you is the universe itself. And if we learn to suck from the universe and nourish ourselves, there's nothing that we can't do and build a business around. And so the coaching dynamic, or the mentor dynamic, as Dr. Dennis Kimbrough would say, if you're the smartest person in your group, you need to get a new group, right? If you need to surround yourself, he said, study the 5 closest people to you. And once you see those 5 people, you can almost predict your future. So the key is to always begin to associate yourself and begin to get around people who help to elevate you to the next level, or the next version of yourself. And so the Masters of Business Network and Mastermind really comes off of those principles that are rooted in scripture. You know, a lot of people attribute, first, let me put it this way. The number one secret of white business success is that they network and they mastermind. That's how you shortcut your learning curve. So again, instead of going back to school to spend $100,000, and I talked to a woman not too long ago, and she had tears in her eyes that she had gone to school, went back to school. She has 3 degrees from 2 colleges, and she was $100,000 in debt. And yet she was coming to us to figure, I need to do something different, because she was working in the field, some of the stuff that we've already covered, working in a field that she got her degrees in. She wasn't in that area of expertise. And in fact, she didn't even have a passion for that any longer. But yet she's burdened by this $100,000 of debt and trying to figure out how to start over. So you don't have to do that. You can invest in groups, begin to network and mastermind with those who can help to take you to the next level. That is the number one secret of white business owners. There's not the Warren Buffett's, Bill Gates, all of them. They have networks, they have masterminds where they meet and they discuss their business problems, and then they collectively come together and give solutions or suggestions or advice to each individual business owner on how they could take their businesses to the next level. We don't do that. And then most of us believe that that's a white person thing. And they attribute masterminding to Napoleon Hill. because Napoleon Hill, again, using universal principles and one who studied the Bible, talked about where you have one person who has a mind, and then you have another person, and those two minds come together, and then they create this third mind, right? And so a lot of people say, well, that's Napoleon Hill. No, I can take you to the scripture where it is said that where two or more are gathered in my name, yes, there I am in the midst of you. So when we begin to network and mastermind together, we begin to develop this new power, really a God power. Because look at the scripture. The scripture is saying, there I am in the midst of you. So when we come together, and we come together in the right spirit and the right energy, God intervenes into that. And he yes, gives us solutions and answers to take us to levels that we've never thought of. So that's why we develop the network, so that we can begin to network with each other and begin to mastermind, so that if you got issues, bring your issue to the group and see if anyone in the group can come together. So you got these two minds coming yes, together, and then let God begin to help us, to give us solutions to what many of us, we allow our problems to become very complicated because we don't know how to ask. I think yes, you had mentioned this in the group the other day about pride. Mm-hmm. We have this false pride. And again, the scripture says, pride goeth before destruction, right? And a haughty spirit before the fall. And so here we find ourselves with these impediments that prevent us from going to the next level. And so that's why we develop the Masters of Business Network and Mastermind, so that we could come together and begin to network, and we begin to mastermind and get training. I'm in there giving training. I'm dripping in there the things that I'm learning from me. I have my conversations with Black millionaires in there. We got we got about 50 other different conversations that are getting ready to get in there. I didn't want to, I don't want to get ahead of myself and announce, but that's a part of networking. I've developed a very serious network of brothers and sisters who are doing significant things. And the best way for me to help brothers and sisters is to bring that collective genius back to us. And here's the catch. You mentioned the price point. And I think that sometimes deters some people, because I think a lot of people believe that you have to pay. Now, there are times when you have to pay premium pricing for certain types of knowledge, certain types of experiences, certain types of relationships. But if you're just starting up, the reason I started the Masters of Business Network and Mastermind, because I saw the pain of people wanting to get into entrepreneurship, or they're into entrepreneurship or business and they're struggling. And all of a sudden someone's coming and saying, well, no, you got to give me $20,000 and I could solve the problem. And that's not the truth. As you're learning, as I've learned and still learning, and as others learn, entrepreneurship, or this thing that we're on, this is a journey. It constantly evolves and changes. There isn't one book. Mm-hmm. There isn't one coach. There isn't one idea. There isn't one product or service that's going to give you everything you need to know. And so we said, how do we get people into the process? How do we get people into the process to begin to learn? And really the process is what it is. That's the entrepreneurship is the journey. You get in the process, you learn something, you take it back to the lab, you do something, go to the next level, then you come back and then you learn some more. You got an issue or problem, come back to the group to get the answer, go back out and learn. Most of us have become transactional. And again, this is viewing it through white people's lens. Their idea of business is just transaction. You give me money, I give you something, go on about your business. And many of us have embraced that, and that's just not even our way. And that's really why naturally we reject it. Mm-hmm. But we have to get over trust issues to where we become relationship businesses, right? I don't want Margot to come and then I give you something you on your own. No, we're in a relationship. Why not be in a relationship, be friends, be companions, and grow and develop together? We're so quick to get away from each other that we don't want to spend time with that. So that's what the Masters of Business Network and Mastermind is. It's a group of brothers and sisters bringing their collective genius together to learn from me, to learn from others, but more importantly, to learn from each other. And we're really I'm trying to get everyone used to that. Sometimes I don't even post because I want to get others to begin to post their ideas and share their advice and talk to each other, begin to network, because that's where the power really lies.
Wow, that's just a totally different thought, though, because that transactional thing, you are so right. Corporate is transactional.
Yeah.
Everything is transactional, and you even hate to say it, but
Yeah.
sometimes in your own family,
Yeah.
it's all transactional.
Absolutely.
So for you to open this up, and we have a chance to network, and it's not just shoving stuff in people's faces.
Yes.
This is just a totally different fertile
Oh
ground
yeah.
to be in.
Yeah, it is.
So I admonish people, go over and how do we find? Just go in Masters of Business Network.
Yeah, you can just Google that or just go to the Mob Mastermind, the Mob, which stands for the Masters of Business, themobmastermind.com. And you'll be able to see what we're offering. And I know you mentioned the price point. Again, it's $10 a month, right? So I tell people if Netflix is more important, that's fine. If you don't have the $10, that's fine. You don't need it. I'm never twisting anyone's arm to come in and learn what it is that they need to be successful. Hopefully, when you try it, and I offer a 30-day guarantee, so really you pay the $10, come in. If it's not for you, I give you $10 back. But I already know. I mean, I have over a dozen interviews that I've done with Black millionaires sitting there waiting on you to go in and pick them apart, to learn from Kathy Hughes, Les Brown, Lisa Nichols, Michael V. Roberts. And like I said, I have plenty more that's coming down the pipe. So I wanted to make sure that price wasn't a barrier for the masses of our people. And this is for us to get started. So it's non-threatening. You begin to get in and slowly learn. You begin to get something, because we have to be reoriented to what we once were. We're really a community. We're a communal people. And we've forgotten. And so that transaction, that's why it doesn't work for us. That's why you see so many of us faltering, because we've fallen into wanting to become transactional businesses, transactional entrepreneurs, when our nature is communal, is relationship. And so once we get back to that, then we'll begin to, again, take down these barriers. We got to remove the stress and the anxiety and the pressure of trying to keep up with the Joneses, right? Our addictions to spending. There's no one that could tell me that they couldn't afford this, because all we'd have to do is say, you know what, I'm just not going to have one cup of coffee this month, and I could pay for my network and mastermind. So it's really, for me, it's a test, because I like to see people where their priorities are in terms of this. And again, if I'm not, I tell people all the time, I may not be your huckleberry. So even if the Masters of Business Network and Mastermind is not for you, the key is still you have to find some place that you can begin to connect with people of like minds, to where you can learn entrepreneurship and business building, and that you can begin to develop joint ventures and strategic alliances. Everything, as George Frazier's taught all of us, is about the relationship. If you don't have relationships, effective relationships, to help you to start, grow, and nurture your business, you won't be in business long. And that's exactly what you see. So many of us are struggling trying to solve all of our business issues, all of our relationship issues, all our parenting issues, all of the issues that we have. We try to solve them ourselves in our own little silos. And I call these, for us, I call a lot of Black businesses or business owners, I say we have what we call these suffering silos. You know, we get into our own silo and we rather suffer instead of saying, you know what, let me talk to this brother. Let me talk to this sister. Matter of fact, let me go to this conference. Let me go sit down with Margot. Let me meet her at the library. Let me get on her show. Everything is just one question away. That's really what critical thinking is. I know I'm going a little bit over.
No, go ahead.
But critical thinking, you know, again, the lost art of critical thinking is really just asking questions. Because once you ask questions to yourself or put them out there, now you have to think about the answer.
Yeah.
Right? And then if someone gives you the answer, you got to think about it. And then if it fits you, you use it. If not, what I do, I tell people we got to start going layers deep. So now, you know, someone would say, if I'm consulting with people, Brother Bedford, I want to start this business. Okay, why? Well, I want to start it because I need to make money. Why? You know, you keep going down until you get to the core of what drives you, and then you begin to, the passion and the strength that you need will begin to emanate, because now you've dug deep enough to begin to apply the answers and the wisdom to any issue or problem that you have. And so we have to get back to just asking simple questions. Everything you want to know is just one or two brothers away. Every sponsorship, every deal, every transaction is a one or two brothers away, one or two sisters away from you. But again, going back to what you and I talked about in the group, and that's why I've started with a lot of mindset stuff. Mm-hmm. As I've grown in entrepreneurship, you begin to find that 90% of this stuff is mindset. It's habits, it's behaviors. The technology, the tools, like, I got a microphone right here and all of this type of stuff. All of that is 10%. You can have all of the webinar software. You can have all of the podcasting software. You can have all of the latest gadgets, the latest phones, all of that type of stuff. It doesn't matter if you don't have the appropriate minds. That's why these things are becoming cheaper.
Yes.
Right? Because the value is not in that. Mm-hmm. The value is not in the computer. It's not in this camera. It's not. That's why these things, the value of the cost point of them is coming down to make it affordable for all of us to afford all of this stuff. But then now the key is what's in here and what's in here that's now going to allow you to grow an effective business. Or I like to even just tell people, just income for yourself. I say it all the time. If you can just develop income where you're not reliant on someone else, where you know that you're in control of saying, I have a product, I have a service, I have something that I can offer, and people in exchange, this natural law of reciprocity kicks in, that if you have something of value and you put it into the marketplace in front of the right people, just nature demands that they compensate you for that. These are just simple principles that, again, that come from us, but that we've gotten away from. Obviously, it's our condition. It's what has happened to us here. But I'm on a mission, and I know you're on a mission, and many other brothers and sisters are on a mission to kind of break that thinking up, to break that model up, to break those philosophies and those ideologies up, because you can see it's not that they're not just working for us. They're not even working for America anymore. Look at how confused they are. The market is down 900 points today alone. There's so much going on that's not working for them. So I know we're getting ready to close out, and I'm in my little spiritual bag right now. So the scripture says towards the end, behold, I make all things new. We have to have a new mind, a new spirit, a new energy around business and entrepreneurship. We don't have to be the millionaires. We don't have to be the billionaires. I see so many people talking about their goals is to be a billionaire. Okay, that's possible, but can we just, the law of growth is you can never do that if you can't manage $100. So you got to manage the 100 first, and then master that, and then, okay, master the 1,000, then master 5,000, then master 10,000. But until we do that, we're trying to leapfrog what is in nature against what God has given all of us. You've never seen a tree just pop up overnight.
Never.
You've never seen a building just pop up overnight. You've never seen the sunrise just pop up in the center. Everything has this gradual growth and development and movement to it. And we've just gotten so impatient that we don't follow this. And then we find other things to blame, except saying, you know what? I'm going to take my time.
Yes.
I'm going to learn what I need to learn. I'm going to master myself. I'm going to go sit down with Margot. I want to reinvent myself, but I need to ask Margot, how did she do it? What was her fears? What was her anxieties? All of those things, that's where the value is. It's not about, Margot, I need a podcast. Okay, well, what is it about? Who you want to talk to? Why? Why do you even want to talk to them? Because if you don't have a big enough why, it's only a matter of time before you stop anyway, because problems and obstacles will arise. And if you don't have a big enough why, you'll abort your process. You'll abort your mission, because it's easier to go back to what you're comfortable with, what you're used to, and what seems non-threatening instead of moving forward. So that's the important thing.
Wow. You're just amazing. What can I say?
Thank you, Margo.
If a person does not become a part of this mastermind platform, they are, I have to really question what they're all about. You say that you want to be an entrepreneur, and especially if you're African American and you don't become a part of the Masters of Business Network and Mastermind, I really have to question what's going on with you. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, my throat is gone. We listen to the wisdom from the very first sentence from Brother Bedford. You understand that he's speaking from passion, not only from passion, but from knowledge. The man knows what he's talking about. I was privileged to be with him for 2 years, and I am so very grateful. We come from a time where we don't know who to trust, but let me throw everything, all caution to the wind. You can trust Brother Bedford.
Well, thank you.
You can trust this gentleman. So many of us do not want to, we don't want to put in $10. God knows we don't want to put in $20,000 because people have the chicaneries out. As my girlfriend in San Diego says, the trickery is on.
Absolutely.
And who do we trust?
Absolutely.
So this Brother Bedford, we can trust you. And everything that I know goes to that. So I'm always talking about reinventing yourself, become an author, a podcaster, an entrepreneur. We don't know how to come from corporate and be entrepreneurs. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I brought you before someone who can show you who can take you the total distance. So, Brother Bedford, they Google Masters of Business Network or the mob. Get in today. Okay. That's the call to action that I'm putting out there to everybody. The call to action is go to the mob, because we need these. We can't work together if you're not in position.
Absolutely.
If you don't have some consistency, then we can't work together. My strength can't match with your strength if you're still on the fence. If you're not listening to what Brother Bedford brings us as far as Andrew Morrison, Kathy Hughes, Mr. Simon T. Bailey, if you're not versed in what these folks are doing and what's going on in the mob, how can we get together? How can we bridge this huge gap that Brother Bedford has brought to our attention? We already knew about it, and how are we going to save ourselves from AI? How are we going to do that? If we're not in position with someone that we know, like, and trust. Right. So I'm not on a soapbox, Brother Bedford. I'm just stating the facts, stating the facts. People have been bamboozled, and now this is the end of the train for bamboozlement. No one can say, well, hey, they fleeced me out of this money and they fleeced me out of. That's not going to happen with Brother Bedford. And I'll tell anybody, 2 years, that's the only reason why this show was able to go from Verkay Brashani over to Lipson, my own platform, and survive and make it and grow. The only reason. And I just will have one other thing, Brother Bedford, I want everybody to know.
Sure.
You speak to this mindset, but in that mindset, you helped my confidence. And we have to always make sure that we're working on that inside man as we're working on our businesses, entrepreneur, and what's going on in this headspace. Brother Bedford already told us about that. It goes hand in hand.
Absolutely.
So get with Brother Bedford. Let him take you on to the promised land. I'm telling you, you won't regret it.
Oh, but thank you so much, Margo. And as you mentioned, it's not just me. It's a lot of brothers and sisters who are doing this work. But again, you're in the group, right? Again, it's something to begin to surround yourself with brothers and sisters who are doing this. As you mentioned, the process of what you've done. Again, just that alone is so worth being around you, to learn how you went through the different the timing of why you should do that. And you mentioned something that is critically important. Confidence. See, that's a part of it. See, that's entrepreneurship. Again, we get caught up on the product or the service. And again, the end result, which is the money, the transaction, that we don't know why we can't even position ourselves to make the sale, to have the call to action. It's all about building up confidence. And there are things that you have to know how to do in order to strengthen your confidence, right? You have,
Yes.
one thing is the competency, right? A
Yes.
lot of us, our competency of what it is that we're trying to do is so low that when we enter into the arena where we're getting ready to make a sale or ask for investment capital, we don't know enough to even articulate what it is that we want, the desire, or more importantly, what is the benefit to the other person that I'm talking to, because we don't have the competency. So I would even say that's a bonus nugget for everyone looking. I'm getting ready to share a training in the Master Business of those 4 C's of building your confidence. And one of them is competency. If you don't have a core competency, if you don't know thoroughly enough about your subject matter, or even just this process that we're talking about of entrepreneurship, it makes it very difficult for you to articulate your product, your service, your added value and added benefit to the other individual. It's almost impossible. And this is what frustrates us. So that's why I see so many of us, we're just constantly frustrated. We're constantly struggling. And it's just these small little nuggets that if you begin to embrace them, say, you know what, you're right. I don't know enough about what it is that I'm trying to sell. So why not get in a group, ask some questions, or take maybe a book recommendation or something that would help me with my competency. So as your competency grows, your confidence grows. So the less your competency, the less confidence you are, right? So it's hand in hand. And it's just, again, I thank you, Margot, for again, just bringing the conversation to the table. This in and of itself is a conversation that needs to be had. Not how many people you can get to like your profile, not how many Facebook follows you have. What is your core competency? What is the relationship you have with other brothers and sisters that's in your space? What is it that Margot can deliver to me on a weekly basis? Well, I'm not just listening to her podcast just to listen, say that I support her, right? Yes. But the person that she's interviewing, what is that one nugget that I've just learned, that I've taken notes and I wrote it down by hand, right? You know, everybody, we want to type everything out and say, I have these goals and they're typed out, but then you don't know why the goal is not in your subconscious, because we've lost the art of handwriting. You don't have your journal. And I know you're big on journaling, Margot, where you write these things down. So Margot asked a question, then someone gave an answer and I wrote it down. And then now I thought about it. And now I can take that and apply that in my business. This is all extremely valuable that traditional school education and people who are trying to take your money will not take the time to say that that's important. You're overlooking what is really going to lead you to the freedom and the independence and the income that you desire, because you're overlooking something so valuable of how to reinvent yourself, how to surround myself with people like Margot and others so that I can begin to reinvent myself. Margot, how did you do it? What is the habits that you had to break? What are the behaviors that you had to do? Margot, how many hours did you put into studying podcasting? You know, Margot, how many times did you do a take on the microphone? How did you get the sound quality right? So all of these things are valuable. This is knowledge that you need if you want to become successful. You can't just say, I want to do a podcast. No. And I'm going to do it. And some people tell you can do the technology makes it so simple. But how do you have a podcast for 4 years? Yeah. Margot had a podcast going on for 2 years straight and never repeated the guests. All new guests. So Margot, you have a catalog of knowledge, a body of knowledge that people need to delve into to begin to say, you know, this is how I need to reinvent myself. So again, I thank you for your call to action, your applauding of what it is that we're doing. But again, my success is your success and your success is my success. And if we can begin to embrace that, then we'll begin to see each other moving in ways that we could have only dreamed of.
Wow. I do believe that. I know that to be a fact. We could go on for another hour at least. But you know what? I had a guest on last week and we were talking about courage and talking about change. And I really had to stop her because she was just like you, just so full of information. I said, girl, we're going to fool around and fire hose somebody. Right. I want these conversations to just activate people and just I wanted to be in their sleep. I really do. And when you speak, you say somebody's not going to be able to sleep tonight because of what I said. I remember you saying that. And that's what I want. I want people to, I'm big on repurposing now, the meat and the gems and the jewels. So people are going to listen more than one time. You're going to be on Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere, all throughout this year, because what you brought to us today is just valuable. It's just beyond valuable. And I so thank you. Thank you. God bless you and the masters and the mob. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Later on, I'm going to be able to tell everybody about something that happened because I am a part of the mob. Oh, yeah, that August Crenshaw, she opened up a door for me, and I am so grateful. So I've walked through, and then I'll be able to tell everybody the end result of that. These are things that happen when you collaborate, when you get with a mastermind. Things just happen. So I have a tendency of not knowing how to end up really good conversations. So I'm just going to say thank you, Brother Bedford.
Thank you, Margot.
Oh, thank you, everyone, for listening, taking time, and you visit once, twice, 8 times. Get your notepad out and bib and live and take that call to action. Do that today. I'm Margot Levette. Her business, her voice, her conversation. I'll be back next week with another episode. And in the meantime, I have to say bye-bye. Oh, go over to my website. It's up. It's brand new. And my books are over there. If you want to know about my story, it's right there. My very first book, Tell It All. Talking about that inside work, okay? And I don't do the game show hopping anymore, which is good. I'm a podcaster now. So I want to thank you for listening to Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation. Couple of things that I want you to do right now. Go to my website, pick up a copy of Her Business, Her Voice, Her Reinvention, how I went from game show hopping to international show host, author, and speaker in 1 year. Number 2, please freely listen to each and every episode. Share them out with your family, friends, the men in your lives. And then number 3, get in contact with me, one of the experts that have been on the show, because I want to make sure that you reinvent yourself. I'll be back next week with a brand new episode here on Her Business, Her Voice, Her Conversation.